Chilly here with Sirius Dallas Moon, and I've been checking with the motherland and seeing that there is a demonstration of disabled and elderly people now in Netherlands. Now, this is a situation where we have the timeline of the Bolshevik Revolution, the World War, the French Revolution, and the Second World War all at once, with the American Revolution and the Union trade and so on. So, very interesting timeline. It's kind of like, why pick your battle when you can leave all these timelines juxtaposed? And so, um, in 1919, there were people that were disabled and elderly that wanted to demonstrate through the party that inspired Hitler to build a Nazi party for their rights after the First World War. And a lot of them became Nazis. Now, we all know that eventually they put these people in death and concentration camps, albeit being Nazi. like, those that committed really excruciating war crimes survived, but he also had to go through excruciating torture. Mars Hour. Now, this is where we're asking ourselves, is the loving father of Melissa, that whether by being authentically overwhelmed or something more, couldn't hear who else was involved in kidnapping and raping his daughter when Mark Dutroux was eager to talk about this, be taken seriously when he comes to the age where he's retired and needs to have disability and retirement benefits. Now, here is the issue. The people that want to allocate even more real estate to have Epstein Islands and Detroit estates under the guise of even disabled people need to meet their sexual needs. Um, well, guess what creates disability the most? Sexual boundary violation and slavery, energy draining constructs. So, while definitely people recovering from sexual boundary violation and more veterans and disabled people and elderly people could team up and actually be taken seriously, the division between the groups is created by those secret societies, and the people in the government, a lot of them were raped by those people that are listed as benefit receivers or public housing receivers, as they were admitted to the network as children. Now, here is the sad part. To recover from sexual boundary violation, and even the tip of the iceberg of atrocious abuse, it takes housing first, independent of ability to work, benefits, and so on. But if they don't provide that, then basically, what are the trafficking houses or healing from post-trauma of war, um, meeting the sexual needs as a disabled person, basically raping a trafficked person? What does that comprise too? Because the interest there is not just to make money through basically allocating government money to give that person to pay the handler through the traffic person, but actually to have siphoned energy and information that can be read through the sexual energy, not only, and have that person commit something that would be eligible to be seen as extortion. For example, having that person using their government benefits to a detriment state where the age of the healers drops and drops and drops and drops to 11. And that veteran would be ushered more and more and more. There would be, of course, drugs involved, there would be rituals involved, and he would be introduced to a network. And then he's already extorted to do more things, for example, becoming a Detru himself, so that he wouldn't have to be extorted and he could also be the extorter. If he does follow through this path, he set himself up to a trajectory of a life of confinement, as I showed in the case of Marc Dutroux. Okay? Now, this might seem external to people even with disability that say, hey, I don't see myself raping a person and calling that meeting my sexual needs. It's quite obvious that even if I am disabled, I don't have the right to rape another, just as I wouldn't think of it, I wouldn't think of being raped as healing my sexual trauma, PTSD, that caused other disabilities such as inflammation, mental and physical diseases, and even types of deformity. One could even offer a disposition that in the settings where disabled people would be eligible to rape people by state benefits, another profitable king would be to kill them. Okay? And from the outside lens, it looks like being cruel to a disabled person. That could explain a lot of the things that are negligence of the. Now, even from the ripple effect, if I just, dropped something at the center of the centrifuga, the ripple effect, or dropped a pebble to the water, the ripple effect of that in wider circles would be more diluted, but still in effect. The people, men and women, that said that the Me Too went too far, depriving people of job opportunities, even in academia, even in simple jobs, even in residence and housing that's actually housing, even in society and feeling belonging to society as being able to have a sense of self. And the people that was bashing their mouths about the younger generations, namely millennials and Gen Z, claiming that they don't want to work where they simply didn't want to end up on Epstein list. I could get promoted. If I would agree to do corruption, I could get promoted. I could run with the who's and who's. All you really needed to do is be competent and doing a shit ton of crime, being straight faced, and enjoy it. But the generation above me was saying, why don't people want to work when we were working 2 or 3 jobs in the best in the best job opportunities that we could have, saying no to corruption in each one of them. Millennials and Gen Zers are not the unsuccessful people. They're the people that set boundaries to what is called success. Slavery is not success. Being an extorted or extortee, okay, or extorting or extorted in a setting of extortion calls is not a fulfilling success. Do we really expect the people in the parliament that were raped by some of the people that are listed as disabled running on state benefits being debt rules? And if there is an extortion to provide rights, then the people that are actually recovering from those, from the effect of those rings, from meeting a person from the network at the workplace or being a tenant of one. But no, these people want to perpetuate the networks, to allocate more real estate under the guise of healing from trauma or disability. And then when somebody decides to build concentration camps for those quote unquote disabled people, nobody gets mad when the ghetto's name is Lodge now. Now, the juxtaposition of all these timelines with the French Revolution timeline give us that the guillotine clock is now regarding also the celebrity status, business class, and extortion cult class that becomes visible. Mid-heaven 22 as I began to broadcast, so it was about to get 22. And this is Chiron Aries. Very literally, that's the dead true real estate of the affair. And people thinking they can get away by being this Maxwell are shown with the Epstein list that, and in fact, they're shown, but a lot of them are too smug to see. The people that didn't besiege the detritus states and required to know who else was involved, which Mark Dutroux was eager to tell, and besiege those households and estates and other types of real estate because they prefer to rape trafficked people on government benefits and later suffer the consequences of basically being surveilled. Yes, it's a very insistent advertisement. I don't know what would I do with a tent right now. Um, that has been persistent. So, this is basically something that, do I know to predict where it will go? I don't know. Would I see like a megalithic feminist wave that takes off at the 3 degrees of Taurus and creates havoc? Well, I don't say that it can't happen, but it kind of has 3 degrees of Uranus in Taurus to happen. And yet, those are the culminating degrees. What do I, now let's talk about the anti-rape groups. Is having a business that beats abusive men not a part of the same extortion cult logic? It doesn't assassinate them. It doesn't end the issue. It doesn't assassinate them with zero torture. It just causes them to be even more vengeful, which perpetuates the violence. I'm talking about it because I actually saw that there was a BIPOC business like that. What would Chiron Aries do? Is a question. Mars is about to close a cycle with Rahu, so some big Martian step is likely to be taken. And by the way, note how the juxtapositions of um, understanding what made that true and that true, recalibrating one's own sense of self, and so on and so forth, comes juxtaposed to these barriers of what am I going to do with a tent now? How someone, but the duality of this juxtaposition, because we are basically coming to break a glass ceiling, and we're trying for it not to be billions of bodies, dead bodies upon dead bodies in death and concentration camps. And as we do, we're kind of like, wait a second, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And I'm not even speaking vengeance or anything like that, not at all. Practicality. Um, because the people that were raped, if they were somehow in the network, then they had to rape. And even if they weren't, many of them had to perpetuate rape as well. Only the outer layers, and I'm trying to be a point of solace from being basically close enough to the problem that I can see the problem, far enough from the problem so that I can find a solution for the problem that is less terminal than Hitler, let's say. um, Mercury retrograde 11 degrees, Sol 22 in Pisces. 13 March, right after Jupiter goes retrograde in March 11th, and the moon will be opposing Jupiter and applying and separating from a sextile to Mars on that day. Which means the moon will be sextiling Mars and opposing Jupiter on that day. Mercury 11th, Sun 22. It's, how should I say that? If this yoga had an Arabic name, it would probably be Intifada. Except that except that Mars trines Jupiter. Venus is already 8 degrees into Aries. Uranus is already 28 degrees Taurus. So, and Lilith is still squaring the nodes, but from Antares. And Antares is associated with being victorious and virtuous. But virtuous with Black Moon Lilith again denotes that Maria Magdalena was not a whore, and her gnosis was not to be condemned. This is basically Maria Magdalena winning against, let's say, the Inquisition. While this win is squaring the nodes, which is a big military armed action that can be particularly violent with Jupiter around Sirius. Now, what's co-present? Mercury in the degree of suicide, Sun in the degree of murder. Um, all of that applying to sextile Sun, applying to sextile Uranus, and the word suicide bomber or suicide bomber big plane or combat plane. Mars is ruling over Saturn degree 3, which means degree 3 is Mercury, media, business, Saturn, big buildings, Aries of entrepreneurial, military or commanding forces, kind of like the top offices of something. They could bomb the Pentagon or something like that, or the Israeli Pentagon. Um, mm, 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 mm. Because this building would have an intelligence importance or a military hospital, but I'm getting this is going to be like a big event, a big important building, or a building of mythical or structure of mythical importance, or that the strike will have mythical importance. It could be like a suicide bomber plane with the moon in Capricorn, manifesting in a manifesting aspect with that Jupiter, so that being a very big action and ruled by this Saturn. So separating from the square to Saturn. Saturn is about something happening from within. It's kind of given something that, again, it's not the same astrological complexion, but if I delineate this chart, it's kind of looking like an inside job, looking like a suicide plane, because with Neptune, something can look like something else that hits some military, trade, real estate, chief security, or hidden security. It could even hit a bunker because Saturn is ruling over Pluto. And we gotta have a lot of fortune crossing through the degree of the solar eclipse where Saturn turned invisible and 28 degrees Aquarius, um, squaring Uranus at 28 degrees Taurus. Um, Saturn degree third, it can be some sort of a business, something related to the media or something related to trade. Military trade, weapon trade, I don't know. And then in the background, Lilith is this basically Mary Magdalena wins. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's just squaring the nodes. It's kind of like midway into the entire what looks like the World Trade Centers, but on a military complex. Or it's kind of like the Pentagon thingy or something like that. But like a global Pentagon. I don't know what. I don't even know what type of structure it has. Here's the thing with us astrologers. Usually, when we say those things, something of that is in verbatim, but we don't really know what. and and then in the background, there's this Mary Magdalene wins, basically not having to repent or to be seen as repentant whore in the face of the Inquisition. It's kind of, it's like I don't know what is it. Is it gonna be the sex scrapers down, down, down? 9/11 on human trade, demolition of this building, like. um, because it's like, oh, it's a huge military, trade, intelligence, business to do. And here's the thing, because Jupiter rules over that Lilith and this Mars, it can have a sex trafficking type of structure. So it's kind of like, is it sex scrappers going down? But this is going to be something of mythical importance. Mercury ruling over Ketu, dematerialization of a contract or an agreement exploding. It's like the Vatican or something like I don't know. I remember when I saw this double quadruple conjunction in Capricorn, and it was like churches burning all over Netherlands. And so here it's kind of like either it's like the Vatican or the Vatican Bank or something, or it has, but it definitely has, or Mecca, like bombing Mecca. Like I really don't know, but it's something of that something that could be something like a 9/11, and the degrees are there. If I would see like around Capricorn, we would have the aviation issues and a lot of airports suddenly being closed. And this is and then something around that is to do with Lilith winning. And Lilith winning in Sagittarius is simply Mary Magdalena was the wife of Jesus and mother of his children, not a repentant whore. And it looks like a sex scraper going down. That's what it looks like. But the fact that she squares the nodes can be that act of demolition was growing within the extortion cults, and yet happens in a way where there is a win, or that act is contradicting to the fact that there is a win here on a philosophical, spiritual, religious level. And with Black Moon Lilith, it simply is kind of like, well, the Bible should be formally addressed as man and woman were created equal, Lilith and Adam. Not Isis and Osiris, by the way. Osiris went through an emasculation phase where his body was cut off, and then basically They had to retrieve it because he was infertile, basically denoting as the stealing of the sperm, the cloning, and the castration. But this is a different story where neither the woman nor the man, the female or the male, um, or the people that embody both genders or sexes are basically castrated. That's that Lilith Antares. So Antares, if you take a look at what would Antares be used talismanically? Core Scorpii, one of the four Persian royal stars, usually for power. Um, they're created to cut away obstacles and promote focused understanding, acting as powerful apotropaic, evil averting agent. Now, with Lilith is basically all the projections that were on Lilith as a demon, as devilish, as for simply saying no to rape. She wasn't looking to dominate anyone. Used for spiritual protection, fostering mental clarity. For mental clarity, we need to have Kundalini rise, which means we need to have our erotic, non-erotic self honored. I I do not have points on that. I do not have anything 9 degrees Sagittarius. If people are like, because I know that I've been talking about that a lot, and Lilith is indeed in my 10th house. Um, I have Ketu around that, and then Uranus. So um, associations known as the heart of the Scorpio carries intense energy, balancing nature of Mars and Jupiter. Is associated with Archangel Uriel. When I was aligning my toes, I saw the company was Uriel, the company of what I was using as a device. Traditional materials carving Scorpio into amethyst or setting the gem in silver. Silver is metal of the moon. Amethyst has to do with Jupiter. Okay. Protective against spiritual attacks or hidden dangers. So this would be probably a structure that the structure that is attacked is a structure that would be involved in spiritual warfare. And that would be Lilith's win. Enhances memory, focus, and strategic thinking. Helps in making difficult decisions and cutting through illusions. Talismans generally, okay. This is the heart of the Scorpio talisman. Helical rise of Antares. Now here is the caveat, because it seems with such big events, usually, yes, usually. Now, one thing I want to stress, first of all, it can be an almost thing, but with those degrees, it kind of feel like it's not. Secondly, Saturn can both delay a bigger event or increase the historical importance of an event. Okay, there it is.
זה סגור? לא, זה פתוח. למה אני מתקשה עם הדברים האלה?
Mm-hmm.
סנדוויץ', כן?
Yep. Um, Hurrying to the rescue. Well, a little bit of unabashed advertisement, but this probably is out of stock. Um, a little more about the Royal Star by Tides of Thetis, talisman makers. Helical rise of Antares. Let's go to the herbs, which is going to tell me more. And okay, motherwort, frankincense, resin. Frankincense can be seen as oil of the father. It's a very classical oil. For example, people that don't have um, anything to offer as a fumigation, they usually use frankincense. But as basic as it sounds, it's a very unique oil that deepens our breathing and therefore very associated with Jupiter and healing wounds of the father. Um, Now, here's the thing to anything Lilith. Lilith will not be subjugated. In the unoriginal Bible, she was exiled. But then even Eve ate from the apple, and then the entire family was exiled. Not compatible for paternal control freak people, men or women. Thank you. Lilith is absolutely not dominating, and she's absolutely not to be dominated, which means she requires a love that is actually loving. And the people that don't like that, they can demonize Lilith all they want, but they will never have love that is actually loving, with all the health benefits that come with that. They can hate on Lilith, but that's only a waste of their energy that could do something else in the world, like addressing the very things that actually prevent them from having housing, care, and so on and so forth. And the way I see this whole thing playing out with the Me Too Went Too Far people is that they have created something that has a trajectory. And they were being smug because they saw this working and they saw nothing else working. But that was the point. They were supposed to look above, or look, how should I say that? They were supposed to see themselves as above the people. Just like, the people that believe that they worked hard and they took opportunities and then all of their savings collapse, while they were scolding the people that told them, dude, I'm not an unambitious person. Or, Missy, I'm not an unambitious person. Here is what it would entail to be ambitious. Here is what I said no to. All of those Epstein things are anyway a bubble pop. And I am your 401k. I have basically disability from the corruption that has gone so big and so profound that even to have a simple job is impossible. And this is how young people that could have had opportunities that fit them, which means maintain their sovereignty and their well-being, became unemployed, unable to be employed, disabled, suicidal, and all of these people that worked and had their savings, men and women, they were refusing to see that their bubble is about to pop, that the rebellion that they didn't do has accumulated. That they have tried to allocate the revolution to the younger generation, and when that younger generation rebelled, it was their pensions being affected. Hey, if I can't do a research in academia that yield actual science about the body-mind question in the medicines and be safe and free, how do you expect the policies that govern both the health benefits and the actual treatment methods to be supportive of your health and well-being as you age, as you become disabled? After all, I only reached to that research topic following trying almost every work sector, not being able to deal with the corruption, not being able to sell products that I don't actually believe in because I didn't go to a regular job to do crime. If I was a criminal, I would go to be a criminal, not go to a regular job to do crime. And then seeing how I would get all kinds of disabilities, some were hidden, some were visible, as a result of the friction between me and my expression and what I'm meant to do in life and who I am and the available opportunities, even when those opportunities began to be increasing. Actually, before the subprime, I was working for a high tech company that was also a weapon company and was doing the computation for the basically public transportation. Um, Trying to negotiate a situation where I would look into the QA of the programming, being exposed to corruption regarding who has to carry the cost of the mistakes in the program, which of course was the drivers, and and me not being able to tend to that, and the actual code that was supposed to encrypt a million shekel or dollar company worth of program being so simple that me having me taking out I don't know, my home keys from the pocket and having that discount key flying out of that pocket, which needed to be on me all the time. Where was I supposed to put it? In my bra? And that program being lost wouldn't be a discount key lost, but a program that is not encrypted worth a million shekel or dollar being lost, and me having to be responsible. I'm like, if it's my responsibility, I need the conditions that allow me to ensure that something is encrypted and has solutions. Another fertile industry was the beauty industry, and I was doing the marketing and media, or working on the marketing and media website of a beauty industry company, a growing company in my country. Both these jobs at the subprime crisis, after leaving a top position that I was filling for a person as a head of campus of a high tech school, Nest Technologies, who one of the biggest companies, where, to be very honest, I was listening to lectures in one ear and closing full courses with the other ear. Of course, it caused an influx of registration and everything that would need to be taken care of. And of course, if my office is geographically positioned inward, the office of another school would be the first to be the backlash. And of course, they ain't seen nothing like that, because they ain't seen nothing like a person that can close full courses of high tech with one ear, listening to lectures in Norwegian or something in the other. And of course, it entailed be thinking innovatively and not saying no to a registered student, which means that if he needed solution to be tailored, then I would make sure that those would be tailored and that person would be able to take that course. All of that was not suffice because I didn't rape children. And generation above me was like, go to work. Gen Zers made a word for that. They called it unaliving oneself. I was less than, it wasn't even my Saturn return when I was signed on basically management life insurance and waiting out the 6 months so that I can calmly unalive myself knowing that my mother is well off with the life insurance. I made sure that it covers suicide. That's the Epstein list. And if a person like me became disabled, both mentally and physically, as a result of the working sector, because I didn't rape children, who do they expect to be the people that make the money to pay the disability? Basically perpetuating more debt estates. And who do you think will murder the disabled people? Very likely the traffic people that they will call capos. But oh, the world was busy saying the Me Too went too far and the young people don't want to work. And mind you, I was not a unique case. My generation are talented, competent people. And definitely so are the Gen Zers.